So best not touch that. And knock it off my knee. Good evening. This is cutting it fine, I'll tell you. I need to put my hair back up. Good evening. Look at that bruise. Oh, it's not going to go up. Sod it. I'll melt. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope everybody is okay. Good evening. Oh my God, I've just this second walked through the door. We've been at the football. Chesterfield won, down to 10 men. What a bloody match, I'll tell you. So good evening, Karen. How are you, my lovely? Evening, Sheila. Hope sending you loads of love. Hey, Anthony, hope you're well. So yes, so I'm going to be eating my toast while I'm sat talking to you, and drinking a coffee or a cup of tea, whatever John brings me in, and maybe my bottle of water as well, unless I've left that in the car. I don't know. Ooh, did you see that? I don't know what I've done to your chair, love. I've lowered his chair to the floor. Hey dear, I didn't weren't ready for that. Evening, Patricia, my lovely. Evening, Dawn. So get the voice right. Hang on, let me see. Alexa, turn office light out. Okay. Alexa, turn office light blue. Okay. That's better. That's better. Oh my God, I'm knackered. I'm knackered. I've hurt my back again, but I'm doing okay. Hey, Charles. I can't see Charles commenting, but I can just see Claire said hello to Charles. Claire, if you want to join me, let me know if you're happy in chat. Then that's okay with me, my beauts. Hey, Antoinette, I've only just this second gone live. I can see you now, Charles. Only just this second gone live. Yeah. Oh my God, the hair's a right mess. Look at that. My parting's not in the right place or anything. I've been faffing with my hair all night. So tonight we're going to be talking about grief and what is grief. So I want you guys to answer in chat. And what does grief mean to you? What does hey Gaz, how are you, my lovely? Hey Cheryl. So yeah, if you guys can put in chat what grief means to you, because we've been talking on and it's not just because of what's happened with the Queen and everything. It's part of the book that we're reading, and it's the I'm reading it in members, and it's the Delphi Ellis Answers in the Dark book, and it's called Grief, Sleep, and How Dreams Can Help Heal. And it's an absolute fantastic book, guys. Do you know when it's one of these books when you're reading it, it's like you're reading about yourself. It's hey Jules, the same as the Queen says, it's a price you pay for love. Do you know, Jules, that's quite I'm going to say an apt saying that. The Queen, as the Queen says, it's the price you pay for love. Exactly. So grief can come in many different forms. Evening now. Grief can come in many different forms, and when it comes to sleeping as well, some of the things that can keep us up at night and keep us awake when we should be sleeping, it can be all grief related. I'm not saying everything is, but for some people, it can actually be grief related. It affected people in many ways. I struggled with depression when I lost my daughter 5 years ago. So yeah, so your grief then, Dawn. So it's the grief of loss, isn't it? And what I'm about to say next, it's not diminishing anybody's loss or making one loss worse than the other. But a loss is a loss, regardless of what it is, regardless whether it's a mom and dad, whether it's a child. It's all it's a still loss, still mourning the loss of my hubby. And you know, Sheila, there's no time limit, my lovely. I think some of the worst things that people can say is time heals. and time doesn't heal. Time doesn't heal a loss. We learn to live with that loss, but it doesn't heal the pain of it, if that makes sense. But other kind of losses that can cause grief is like a mobile phone, let's say. Now, somebody might, if one of your friends comes up to you and says, I've lost my mobile phone, and I've only recently, through reading this, sort of like acknowledge what this is, because I never looked at it either. So the loss of a mobile phone. So if somebody come up to you and said they'd lost the mobile phone, if somebody said to me they'd lost the mobile phone, I'd say, well, you can buy another one. But you know what they can't buy? They can't buy those photos or their memories that have been recorded on that phone. They can't get them pictures back unless they've saved them to some sort of iCloud, or they've shared them on a media or something. And a lot of people don't share pictures. They you know. And it's like, so grief comes in many different forms, but it's the loss at the end of the day, isn't it? I don't know what it is, but after 9 years, I still grieve for my wife. Yeah. And again, Charles, like I said to Sheila and Dawn, there's no time limit on grief. Grief, it's like, you know, when you talk to somebody about your loss, and you know, I've had it actually happen to me tonight at football. The lady that we sit next to, she lost her dad a fortnight ago, and his funeral's coming up on Friday. And when she was, I mean, she's been that busy with the funerals and making with different family arrangements and everything else, that it's like a mind's been too busy. Thank you. A mind's been too busy to grieve. And instead of me saying, I did say, I am so sorry for your loss. But instead of me saying anything else, I just said, look, if you need to talk, I'll give you my number. And I'm all, evening, Diane, I'm here if you need to talk. Because I think sometimes what we can say can be quite, it doesn't mean anything, does it? You know, when somebody says things to you. I'm going to have a look and see, because I'm at the chapter where we were. So I'm just seeing. So disenfranchised grief is relative and subjective experiencing. Examples people have told me about. So these, I mean, some of these are quite upsetting. But this is reality. This is what happens in life when we lose certain things. So these are like examples of what Delphine spoke about to other people. There was a person who had a miscarriage in the first few weeks of a pregnancy. This person had a miscarriage in the first few weeks of pregnancy and was told at least it wasn't a real baby. You know, a lady had a termination pregnancy where the person was told, well, it was your choice, not looking into, well, why did that have to be the choice? What was the situation surrounding that? It goes deeper than it was just her choice. A lady whose family didn't accept her sexuality, and when her wife died, was told by them, at least now you can have a proper relationship. Do you know? And these are real things that people have said. A veteran who had lost a limb, you know, or the assumption that autistic people, for example, don't feel sad or anything at all because they might display emotions differently. And these are just like, it were just so, the generalizations are so unhelpful to a grieving person. Oh, bless you, Diane. Yeah, mine. Do you know, my dad's my spirit guide. I don't know how many years it's been that my dad's passed, but he passed in 1982. And I'm no good at mathematics, and he was already 31. So, yeah, my dad's my spirit guide. As soon as you found out you're pregnant, your baby, and you plan for the future together. You do, Jules. You do, exactly. And it's like, it says these generalizations are so unhelpful to a grieving person. It puts them in a metaphorical boxes about for what and how they should grieve. And I think using the word snowflake as well when people have like somebody like again take it back to losing a mobile phone. Oh, you snowflake! What are you moaning for? You buy another one. That grief's real to that person. They've lost something. So I'll read you a little bit. So it says, when Take That went their separate ways, a hotline was set up to support their fans. The potential impact of that band's breakup was recognised. But because no one had died, it was mocked by many. When Princess Diana died, despite the outpouring of grief seen globally, I met many people who said they didn't get it. A lot, you'll hear that saying it about the Queen. They don't get it. Almost sneering at those who mourned. But that doesn't mean the grief felt individually and as a nation wasn't valid. Princess Diana may have been a symbol of struggle or hope that many could connect with, or perhaps those grieving knew what it's like to lose their mom or their nan or their sister, and her death gave them permission to grieve. Because how many of us, when we do lose somebody, we don't grieve, but yet we could be watching a movie and I watched Champ. Believe it or not, Champ. I don't know if some of you might remember that one, but there was Champ, the movie about that boxer. That to me was like so heartfelt. I cried because it was like it was the emotions of losing a parent. So my mum was 54, too young in my very young, Diane, very, very young, my lovely. I lost my daughter, sister-in-law's mum and husband all in 18 months of each other. So again, it's like, so the grieving, so when you're grieving, it's not just something that you just, it's going to get better next year. And it's like again within the book it was saying a lot of people say, oh well, it's coming up to the first year's anniversary, and they say that's the worst one. The worst anniversary is the first year passing. Morning, Bon. But actually, is it the hardest? Because it's coming up to I don't know how many years it is for my dad's passing. But when it comes up to that day, how many years has he missed out on my life? How many years has Diane's mom missed out? So it doesn't get easier every year it comes to the birthdays, to Mother's Day, to Father's Day, to spending another Christmas without loved one, bringing a new year in without somebody else. It's very... Again, Antoinette's mentioned Marley and me, very sad. Yeah, for us pet lovers, us that have got babies, fur babies, we lose a fur baby and it's like, oh, it's only a dog, you get another one. That connection you have with your fur baby at that time is... You're never going to replace that, just like as you'd never replace your mom. It also goes on about in the book about accidents that we've gone through. So look at the lady that got acid thrown in her face. She felt a loss of a life-changing... I can't even imagine the grief that lady's feeling. The soldiers that go off to war, the people that just get through illness have to lose a limb. To lose a limb, you're going to grieve for that. You're going to grieve for the life that you think you should have had, or the life you should have had to the life you've got now. Evening Paranormal. Discovery Wales, my love. So yes, the grieving covers it. Don't just look at grief at when you're talking to people and they've lost an animal. It doesn't necessarily, it could be any animal. It could be a snake they've lost. Just because you don't look at a snake as something that, well, I won't be bothered if I lost. Do you know what I mean? You've got to look at it overall. Because to somebody they're grieving that, and it's not something to be sniggered at, it's not something to be laughed at. And I think as a society, I think we make these things, don't we? And it's because that's what we were told when we were younger. And I don't know how many people have gone through a loss and it's gone to we don't talk about it because you've either been ridiculed. So the gentleman that lost his leg, or the lady that lost her arm, gets ridiculed for missing the old life and gets told, actually, well, you need to get on with it and start focusing on your new life. How does your mind, how does that person's mind get them from that A to B? When it's not the same as is it the same as losing a loved one? What's your thoughts? Guys, Champ's your favorite film? Don't go, Shane. Or don't. Bum's day today been about 4 years. Oh, bless Bum. Many I'm gonna send many heavenly wishes to your mum, my lovely. But I do believe as loved ones do come back, as animals come back, as our spirit guides. My son lost his sight in his left eye due to diabetes. He's really struggling. This is what I'm saying, Antoinette. That's grief, is going through grief. And from what I was reading, we hear that there's 5 stages of grief. Is it denial, anger, sadness, blame, and everything else? Well, apparently that doesn't exist. That there's no such thing that exists. That it's what somebody said, but how society's took it is it's been took in the wrong context as what it is to as what it is to be said. And again, Antoinette, for your son, I send him loads of healing, and the grief that he's going to be going through is going to be, it's going to be, I don't know. And again, you hear people say, oh, well, if it happened to me, I'd do this, or this did happen to me and I did that. And you know what? That's great that you managed to do that, or I managed to do that. But just because I did it that way doesn't make it my way's right way. Evening Soldier, doesn't make it that it's right that way just because I said it's right, and how many of us have done it when, typical example, where's she gone? Hang on. Oh my goodness, know me and names. I'm shocking. Diane said she'd lost her mom, and it were 22 years ago. My response, again, without thinking, it's a human response to say, I lost my dad 1982. Does that make it that my grief is then more, or does it mean that am I saying that because I want Diane to know that I feel empathy? I've got that empathy because it's something I've gone through, and I don't think we talk about grief enough. I don't think we talk about death, dying. Oh shit, we don't talk about dying. I'm just going to go little and large here on. Do you know what I mean? I have to stay strong for my sons because losing my husband, my youngest son, is still struggling with the loss of his dad. He's going through lots of struggles because missing him to help him through things. And it's going to be it's a journey that your son will. The grief that it's hard to stay. I'm not doing karaoke. It's hard to stay tuned. It's tuned. That's because Soldiers put that on, and I've seen it. I think every loss is different. To lose a parent is. How do you put it without sounding a knob? Me personally, I'm gonna have to use me as an example. So when I lost my dad, my grief was different to my mum losing her husband. It doesn't make it any less, it doesn't make it any more so, but the loss was a different loss. My mum lost her best friend. She lost the person that she thought she were going to spend the rest of her life with, maybe even have more children with. Whereas though my loss was this person, this protector that was supposed to be around me, this dad who's supposed to walk me down an aisle, who's supposed to be a granddad to the children. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference, and I think sometimes when you're dealing with a child that's dealing with the loss of the person, you have to look at it from that from that child's eyes and not put your words in there, you know. It's yeah, but again, it's like cutting an arm off for that hug. Again, it's worded, you know. If somebody's on here that's got an amputee that has lost an arm, and it's like, is it the same loss? You know, I know you're not meaning it that way, and it's a saying, it is a saying, but it's like, it's two totally different. Yeah, it's just so difficult. Two totally different relationships with the same man. Exactly. And I don't know. I wonder whether as a society we've just sort of like hardened ourselves up to, I don't know, to not taking people's feelings into account when it comes down to grief. And like I said, it can be something like a mobile phone. It can be that we've just been to a football match tonight. We're all cheering because our team's won. Them who we were playing, they're going to be grieving that loss. And to an avid football fan, that this is like the life, this is serious, that's a massive loss. You know, a loss is a loss regardless. And it's like, I think, I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts on it? We don't talk about it enough, Antoinette. We don't. My dad lost the most amazing person to him, a childhood sweetheart. Yeah, 100%, Diane. 100%, my lovely. My mum and dad were childhood. Mum and dad were the same as your mum and dad were childhood sweethearts. Social media, people rarely consider people's feelings. No, they don't. And do you know, social media really should be, for me, hey Scots, social media as a platform, as somebody that's sitting here that's talking to a screen, I have to take responsibility for what I'm saying. And there's nobody else that can take that responsibility bar me for what comes out of my mouth, if that makes sense. And I think as people that do this, obviously, I'm not talking about us, but I'm talking about these what do you call them? You know, the bigger channels that are like doing all this. What do you call them? What do you call them? These channels that come on as though they're speaking for others and stuff like that. I forgot what you call them. They're like a valued channel or something. I don't. You'll know what I'm talking about. Influencers. They're quite shy at what they do. They're very self-centered. They're very I'm all right, Jack, so it don't matter about everybody else. Social media giants, SMG. But yeah, do you know, it's a really thing. Some people will feel a loss deeper than others. Oh, definitely, I am. Definitely. What's Dawn put? He feels he's hurting me sometimes talking. It's a memory we loved and shared. I think, you know, Dawn, and please join in chat, guys. Put your thoughts. Nobody's going to take offense. Just make sure it's worded properly. But I'll put Bonds up in a minute. But yeah, I think as a child, I saw that my mom was heartbroken. So for me to mention my dad, I didn't want to hurt my mom either. So there is. I don't follow, actually. No, I don't, soldier. But it's like, yeah, it's just sometimes we have to step out and get somebody else involved, I think. Especially when it's a child, we have to go out and get that help. Even as adults, there is people out there that we can talk to that won't judge. Yeah, I won't grieve the loss of my bio dad, as he has nothing to do with me, but grieve my stepdad, who was my dad in my eyes. Do you know, Bon can 100% understand where you're coming from on that. Like you said, do you know, anybody can be a dad, but it takes a man to be a father. And that, I think that's very true words. That's always be, or is it anybody can be a father, but it takes something special to be a dad. Anyway, something like that anyway. But yeah, 100% agree, Bon, 100% agree. Me neither, Soldier. I watch their content, of course, but I'm not personally invested in following anyone. No, I mean, some of these influencers, they do my boxing. See them on TikTok, and I think, fucking hell, have you really just said that? But yeah, there's so many taboo subjects, isn't there? Did I see somebody put something about suicide? Did I? I don't know. But if you look at like mental health, look, if we go on to like mental health and stuff, for mental health, I mean, you hear people that'll say, people that take their own life, they're selfish, they're spiteful, they've not thought about anybody other than themselves in that moment. They've left everybody with no answers, blah 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 blah. But again, talking about suicide is a taboo subject, do you know? For me, that person, the grief that person's going through is unimaginable. Take care, Diane, my lovely. Is unimaginable what grief they're going through before they do what they feel that they have to do, that there's no way out of it, do you know? And again, I think it's because as a society we don't deal with grief. We don't talk about grief enough, you know. I mean, you'll know how this, when it, what I was saying earlier, it were a year to your dad's passing this year, but people said, oh, it's going to be the hardest for you. Why is the first year going to be the hardest? It's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. It's every other year passing, because they're missing more of what you're doing. Do you know? They're missing more things that you're doing with your life, that you're doing. A lot of time they do think about other people. They do, Scotty, when they just think about those around
them wrong.
Yeah, think they're a burden, having a never. Yeah. I mean, such a place, head place to be in. Unless you've been there yourself, it's near impossible to understand that someone contemplating suicide is going through. Do you know it is? It is. I think one of my lowest ebbs in life, bar from obviously a loss of my dad, but one of the other lowest things was Jordan was about 2.5. I think Ashley would have been a baby. Now, that relationship was an unhealthy relationship on his part, and everything else. And I got to a stage, because my identity had been taken away, it had been stripped. I lost who I was. I was told I was fat, I was ugly, nobody'd want me with 2 kids. On other physical and mental abuse things that you can just imagine, or maybe you can't imagine, but some of you would. And it come to a point I felt I got no way out, because I was threatened if I left, he'd get the kids. He'd get to keep the kids, and I won't get them, and I won't give my kids up over anybody. It got to a point where I didn't tell my mum what were going off, because it threatened that it were going to something had happened to my mom, or something's going to happen to my sister. Or I felt like, even though my mom saw the bruises and I used to say, oh, we're fighting, I've never had a fight in my life. But it was my protection sheet, because I felt so isolated and alone. And one day I went to, I'd had enough. I didn't want to be here, and I didn't want the kids to be left with him. And I filled their bottles with, like, and it sounds daft, paracetamol, crushed paracetamol up, and I put it in the bottles. and I've got it on side for me. The only thing that come into my mind in a split second was, what happens if I come back and they're not, my babies aren't here? That was the only thing that stopped me from doing what I was going to do. In the instant that I did it, I ended up phoning my sister up, and our Jenny ended up coming to our house. And but the powder in the bottles was that much in the bottles that it had actually stuck to the sides. You couldn't get the powder out because I'd put that much in, and it were heartbreaking at the time to look back and think, fucking hell, did I come that close? Because I didn't feel I got a way out. I felt isolated. I was on my own. I was in a relationship that wasn't a healthy relationship. I was about 19, 20 year old. I were a kid that had got 2 kids, it's not that I understand, but I have. It were a difficult time. I mean, obviously, things change. Things got better. Eventually, everything will get better for us. But it's how I bring and the support we've got that comes in and deals with that. It's finding that voice, Blackpool. My daughter's just been to Blackpool. Back before we really gave PTSD any weight, I suffered from it for about 30 years and went down the wrong route instead of getting help. I recognize the symptoms if it ever happens again. Yeah, you would. And I think when we've been I think for some of us, when we've been to that low ebb, there was something that stops us from crossing that line. And for me, it was just that thought, that split second thought. I don't know where your help went to get help for you, Soldier. When it come to dealing with the grief for my dad, I never got over that. It's only been, when did I go to see that psychiatrist?
5-6 years ago.
About 5 years, a couple of years before COVID, weren't it? I'd never dealt with the grief of my dad, and that played a massive impact on my life, on relationships, on everything else, because I didn't deal with the grief. And for me, instead of embracing a relationship, I'd push a relationship away because that man's not going to stay. Because in my head, that's what I'd programmed myself to think from an 8-year-old child, So eventually, when I got the right help with the right person, because you'll not just get the right help from that one person. It could take you 6, 7, 8, 9 attempts before you find that one person that you actually gel with, that you can listen to and talk to, and they understand where you're coming from. So it's sort of like a really big thing that we don't talk about. And I think really we do need to talk. It does need to be a subject that we do talk about a lot more than what we do. Sending hugs back to you, Antoinette. I mean, I'm one of the lucky ones, or I'd class myself as a lucky one, where I did have, like, you. I got you round me. Do you know what I mean? We've been together 11 years. 11 years next year, isn't it?
Is
it 11 years this year? So it were like John was just amazing, Morning, Steve. So I got that pillar of strength. I got somebody that I can tell anything, can't I? If something's bothering me, I can just say it and we deal with it, don't we? And vice versa. So it's you need somebody like that. But definitely grief is a very taboo subject, I think. Has anybody else got any thoughts on it? Have you got any thoughts on it? Or
not really. I mean, you've covered you've covered most of it, haven't you?
But please, if anybody is suffering out there or knows anybody's suffering, please just let them know that they're not on their own, that there is a safe place for them, and just be there. Don't judge. Less judging and more caretaking, I think, is needed. Don't disappear, because we'll be changing subject in a minute. Talking to the right person at the right time can be miraculous. It bloody can, Soldier. It bloody can. So yeah, sending love to everybody across the waters. So yeah, is there anything anybody wants to? I mean, obviously you don't have to go into grave detail. I am going to be in my toast while we're talking now. How I came out, I did a meditation. How I came out, I did a meditation that a guy wrote himself, and everything came out like the river, and that day changed my life. Yeah, but you know, it's like you say, you found your turning, you found it, and I think it's that, yeah, it's. I'm glad you found it. Hey, Jean, hope you're well, my lovely. Guys, put a lot of people think that talking to someone is cliche, but it genuinely helps. I think it really does genuinely help. Hey, Katrina, my lovely. Hope you're well. I'm okay here, just thinking of Mom on her birthday. Sending you big hugs, my sweets. Hey, Nanny Lynn. I know this is grief. I know this is grief specific, but mental health is general into hush hush. But this is what we were saying, Steve. You know the book that I've been reading in members, and I will hold it up again because I'm telling you now, you do need to go out and get this book. If you don't sleep at night and you don't know why you're not sleeping, this book is an eye opener. I am reading it in members at the moment. We are on up to chapter 5, but yeah. I forgot what I was going to say then. I went on my own tangent. Let me see where I put. Yeah, that's it. So, answering back to Steve, weren't I? But they were saying, you know, with mental health has a lot to do with grief, Steve. And this is what's not looked at on the mental health section, in the mental health overall. A lot of people suffer mental health through grief, through a loss. And whether it's a loss, like we said earlier, a mobile phone with all those memories and photos on, even messages from loved ones that have sent you a message or a voice message that you might have kept. You lose a mobile phone and you've lost it. And if that's happened to you at a young age or in your 20s where you've lost a phone and it had got somebody's details on that you've lost and you've never got back, you grieve for that. And because it's grief that we don't deal with, or because in society it's not seemed okay to grieve over the loss of a mobile phone, you just get told to buy a new one, then later in life, even though your life's gone on and things have happened, that loss is still playing. And even when you're sleeping, it could be, like they said, it could be a song that comes on radio. It could be a film that you're watching, Champ. It could be something that triggers that emotion from what happened in your 20s to that loss that you lost. It could be while you were at a football match. It could be because we've lost as parents. It could be because we've lost as children, as pets. It could be because we've lost his favourite T-shirt that as Nanan bought us when we were, I don't know, 14-year-old, and you never wanted to get rid of it, and then you've gone into your cupboard and there's mothballs all over it. You can't replace that T-shirt. So it's a loss that we're not, as a society, we look at and we laugh, or we go on, not just laugh. It's we take the piss out of, basically. I can't believe such and such lost his phone and is right upset. Not doing them tonight, Linda. It's tomorrow, sweets, or Thursday, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's all that different loss and everything else. So yeah, I think we do need as a society to not ridicule people for a loss. Antoinette's just put this is a good one. What Antoinette's putting up. I lost my purse. It wasn't the money. You can replace that, but it's your other personal items. Yeah. And then personal items you don't get back. You're lucky if you get them back. But it sounds daft, but maybe if you're not sleeping properly now, that loss of losing that purse is still it's still something that your brain hasn't mentally dealt with, that your head's not dealt with. So because it wasn't dealt with as because you wasn't allowed to grieve for that loss of your purse, because you knew if you said it to somebody, they'll just say, well, buy a new purse. you know. Just do you know what you know the gist I'm trying to say, don't you? But yeah, it's like that personal stuff in there. It meant a lot. Thursday night is Tara night. Steve's put, I hit the deepest pit of depression when I left work. This is another one, as I had worked for 20 odd years, and all of a sudden I felt I had lost my reason for being, my reason for getting up every day, and that was the hardest battle of my life. But I was lucky to have a supportive, I'm going to put, person who understood me and always encouraged me to talk about it with her. About it. I had the kids that needed me. It took me 18 months to talk to professionals, and after trying 7 different people, gave up and worked with my partner to club out of it slowly. Yeah. And you know what, Steve, you know, that depression, that loss, that grief, that mental health part of the depression, that calling it, it's grief. You was grieving that loss of that job. Because that was your identity. So you'd lost, not only had you lost your job, but you'd lost that identity on yourself. But if you'd said to somebody at that time, I'm depressed because I've lost my job, or I'm grieving because I've lost my job, they'd have said, shut up and go and get another one. They wouldn't take into an account everything else that goes along with that, you know. That's the equivalent to losing a phone for me. It's all the personal stuff I've got on it, pictures, etc., that I'd lose. I think Soldier's talking about the other one. When you are in such a state of depression that you contemplate taking your own life, there can come a time when nothing can alter your decision, not even for love of for others. That doesn't in any way make that decision an easy one. Depression is a mental illness that I am far too familiar with. If anyone is suffering with their mental health, please don't suffer in silence, and please talk to somebody. It is okay to not be okay. It definitely is, my lovely. It definitely is. But yeah, it's like you said, Claire, sometimes that's the only way they see to move forward. Professionals are not always the right people to talk to. I have to agree with Soldier. Sometimes it's not professional. It's not a professional person that you need. Sometimes it could be. Do you know what it could be? You could be sat in a park and you could be listening to a child talking to its mom next to you, and it could be that clicks. Some of us do need that extra. So if always try that route first and look for other alternatives to talk. Lindsay, I've been diagnosed as chronic insomniac and I've been put on medication. Sheila, to be honest, there's so many of us out there that have got sleeping disorders, and again, the sleeping disorders come into account. Not all of it is down to a grief, but a lot of it. The sleeping disorders that we come to and what keeps us awake at night can stem back to grief and not dealing with grief. And in your case at the minute, I know you've had a massive loss, Sheila. And every day you're still living, you're dealing, you're trying to push yourself forward daily. Yeah. But some of us, sometimes, you know what, it's okay to take medication. It's okay. A lot of people turn the nose up, don't they, at taking medication because it makes you look weak, or it makes you look, I don't know, makes you look in whatever way it makes you look, but you know what I mean. Scotty, some people try and gatekeep what depression isn't. Basically like saying to others, that's not depression, you're a bit sad, you'll get over it. Do you know, Scotty, how many people, your dad were one, weren't he didn't believe in depression, your dad?
I don't know if he did
towards end, but in early life,
earlier on, yeah, my dad used to say, you just need to kick up arse.
You need to kick up arse, because that was what the elder generation, like Soldier were on about earlier with PTSD, that sort of like stems back to that, like my nanans and my nanan's mom's mom and stuff like that. Was there were no such thing as depression, and they still, because people can't see it.
This is going back to probably late 70s, early 80s time. You know what I mean? It's not a recent thing. But I mean, depression weren't really a known. Mental illness weren't really a known thing back in the 70s, early 80s. I mean, like you said before, ADHD were naughty kids. People with depression were just sad.
Well,
you know. PTSD, I don't even know what they used to say PTSD were.
I don't know. Situations from the past can be triggered from future events. You might think you've dealt, but sometimes it comes back. And you know, Diane, you're 100% right. Like you say, you could be listening to a radio, you could be listening to, it could be something that's an old replay of, I don't know, something that you used to watch back in the 70s, 80s, and that memory just like boom. Could be a place you're driving through, or an old, I know, or an old cafe that you went to as a child, and you've gone back to Skeggy, or you've gone to Cornwall, or you've gone to Spain, and you've gone, you know, there's so many trigger points that we don't look at, but that's the trigger point, and it's so difficult. Nanny Lane, I can't sleep well, if at all, as my mind's too active. Have you read the book yet, Nanny Lane? Have you been reading the book?
The thing that annoys me more than anything, it's not just with grief, it's with mental illness and everything, is I mean, if you look at it, they say there's 7 stages to grief, right?
That's what you're saying in that book. It says it's all rubbish.
Yeah. And they say you go in a certain order. Well, how do they know that person's going to go in that order? That person's going to suffer from all them 7.
They go in that order because that's what society tells them, that they've got to go in that order.
But it's not.
And it's not. And I think until we can accept that as a society, it's not going
to... And treatment for mental health. Yeah, tablets help. But tablets to me just more mask the symptoms. You're not dealing with the problem behind what's caused it in the first place, unless it is a chemical deficiency.
Yeah.
But if it is anything else, then you're not dealing with it. But again, it's like exposure therapy and stuff like that, and it don't work for everybody. But they're saying this is the route they've got to go, and it's just not. It's not right.
Yeah, I have my phone on at night. I have a meditation on or a story. Evening macabre, indeed. Depression, ADHD, PTSD, autism wasn't a known thing decades ago. Younger generations are luxuriously fortunate to live in this era. Definitely. I was classed as a naughty child. I were ADHD.
You were a naughty child, though.
I know, but it was still a...
You're naughty,
but it was still... I can see people are putting about medication, taking medication for years, tried coming off. Evening, Margaret. This was detriment. I've been taking medication for years, tried coming off a couple of times. To my detriment. I don't care what people think. It keeps me proper, Diane. I always was, and meant to be.
That's what I'm saying. But the medication just, it helps. But it's not causing it's not curing the problem behind it. But I'm taking antidepressants myself, so I know exactly where you're coming from. The antidepressants. You see how many tablets I take a day. What?
Serious convo.
Yeah, they keep me level. Yeah. But it's not dealing with the issue. I don't even know if I could deal with the issue behind it all. I don't even know what the issue behind it all is. Do you know what I mean? Mm. So, and I've been to CBT, I've been to...
But this is what...
all these different psychologists or whatever, and they seem to grab onto something. They'll get you talking, they'll grab on, and then they automatically say it's because of that. Mm. Well, how do you know? You don't know it's because of that, and then they try and work with that, but then that don't cure it. So.
But this is what in this book it's saying. It's like, you know, if you were a 3-year-old and you lost your favourite toy, you know, later in life, that loss, that grief for that dog or that toy you've lost on beach, can hit you tenfold. But then this is where the same way the mind is working. It's because we don't deal with grief. Because you lost your toy on a beach, they'll go and buy you a new one, but it doesn't replace the loss of the old one. And that's what it's like trying to get to within this book.
I think you beat me by 2, Antoinette. I think I said about 20.
Nanny Lynn, I've had 2 nervous breakdowns, as it was called years ago. They just put me on medication, made me feel like a zombie, and all it did was suppress the feelings. But I got to the core.
But not got to the core. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Tablets mask the symptoms.
Margaret, I like my happy pills keep me from drowning. Yes. I'm going to therapy for depression, and I'm on antidepressants now.
Well, it's nothing to be ashamed
of.
It
isn't. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Whether
you'd actually be surprised how many people now are on medication,
some form of medication
for mental health issue.
Yeah.
Some type of mental health issue.
Oh, definitely. I think sometimes the doctors are very quick to give tablets. I think that's what Steve's saying as well, to write a script. There is some things that can cause what doctors do, what I've not seen many doctors do. Before I put Steve's up on screen, my son had got ADHD, and if anybody's got a child that's got ADHD, Asperger's, along the rainbow spectrum, as we call it, they're not very good sleepers, because again, the brains are very active, but also because our body naturally produces melatonin. Now, for some reason, and at any one time, a person's body can stop producing the melatonin that we need. Now, melatonin is what helps us sleep. And instead of giving people, when they can't sleep, these antidepressants to start with, they need to be looking down melatonin route, I think, first. For me personally, it depends on, like Scotty said, on that individual at that time.
This is what I was saying. They can't.
No, you can't box it all up.
Say,
no,
right,
you can't, because some do need them. But I'm just saying, for me, melatonin, and it actually worked. Mike's did good. Now, whether it was a placebo effect, I'm not sure. But once he was taking that melatonin, he had to take it half an hour before he goes to bed. My cousin, my niece, she's I don't know if she's 20 yet, I don't, but she used to take melatonin. She used to take melatonin, and I think she still does. She's on quite a big dose because the melatonin her body produces, and she's Asperger's, touch your ADHD, touch your autism. So it's a wider thing. But let's see what Steve's put. Doctors these days are very quick to just write a script and dish out pills. I was put on antidepressants when I hit rock bottom, and the side effects of the pills actually made me worse. And I say with my doctor, and I told him in no uncertain terms that I didn't want to rely on drugs. So he has me now on a very light antidepressant to keep my mood stable. And again, it's working, Steve. It's working for you. So I'm glad that you've got something that, like you said, it's not a heavy sedative one. It's one that just does it. There is so much they don't know about mental health. They seem to guess it at times. They do. My son was on Ritalin. Yeah, that's what Mike's were on. He still is. Hey, everyone, so not been on for I lost my best friend a few weeks ago. Hope everyone is well. Sending you a big hug, Mohammed. If you need me to talk, me and John are always about to talk. If you need somebody to talk to, my lovely. But yeah, grief is. Grief comes in many different forms for us all, and there is no right or wrong way on grief, is there? So anybody want to pick another topic to suggest? Do we talk about mental health a bit more? Are we all happy, or do we need to change the subject? I'm having to dip my toast in my tea. John's looking at me and he's going to call me dirty.
I can't even watch you do that. That's just wrong on so many
Does anybody else dip the toast in the tea?
It's wrong.
Not at all. But yeah.
Give me a bit of your toast.
Why are you going to dip it in your tea?
No, I'm dipping it in your tea. I'm not dipping it in mine. I'm making
I don't know what's wrong with you.
Tea tastes like butter.
It doesn't taste like butter. It tastes lovely. I think the key is don't be afraid to challenge your doctor. Yes, there are the medical professions, but there are always other options which may suit your circumstances better.
That's wrong in every way.
I loved your picture. Absolutely, it's lovely. Dipping tea in toast. Woohoo! Thank you, Jules. I did like your picture. Antoinette's actually painted a picture of Paddington Bear, the Queen, and I forgot who else has stood there. But she's painted it on a window. It looks absolutely beautiful. A nice memorial.
That's wrong.
Lindsay is a good listener. She's a good one. And Jess, I dip toast in tea and coffee. Thank you, Diana.
That's so wrong. That was minging.
There's nothing wrong with dipping toast. Do you know where I got that from? I used to be a care worker. And one of the ladies I used to go round to, she'd got no teeth in.
Yeah.
And she enjoyed tea. She used to have a cup of tea and she used to say to me, do me a couple of slices of toast. And when I first went in, I was like, how's she going to eat this? Because she likes it. She likes the toast crispy. And I'd do a toast and then she'd sit and she'd put it in a tea and then she'd just it'd just disintegrate in her mouth. So, Koga, that was it. And
for anybody who hadn't tried it, it was very wrong. It tasted minging.
Tea and toast. No, I'll accept some weird food things. This is too... Scotty, don't knock it till you've tried it.
I've tried it.
Oh, bless you, Nanny Lynn. You've been to another funeral today. It's not that I dislike it. I think we all feel the same, don't we, about funerals. But another thing that gets us, me and John were saying this, it was Auntie's 90. Was she 90? Auntie Maeve?
Yeah.
She's 90 this year. And family said we're having a 90th birthday meal. So we got together and we were talking, weren't we, to your cousins and that and everything else. And they said one of the reasons they wanted to do this for a 90th was because, and it's not going to say the next time we're going to see him, but there's a possibility.
No, it just said that they said that they wanted to have a party for her because only time our family gets together recently is for a funeral. And we wanted to have a happy celebration rather than a sad one.
Yeah.
And my auntie said she didn't really want a party. And then my cousin said to her, look, you realise that if you don't have a party, next time people come
to see you,
it could be
a funeral. So she just changed her mind and had a party. My grandson is ADHD. My daughter researched on how to control his ADHD by not allowing him to have certain foods. It changed him so much. It grades up, his concentration is better. Do you know what? I'm really glad that your daughter has done a research. I know when we were researching that bloody fly, when we were researching it, because obviously like your daughter, once ADHD come into a factor, we were looking at it. And for ADHD, I don't know if not many people know this, but with ADHD, and again, it's on that rainbow spectrum, there's part of your brain that's actually, and they call it brain dead because there's a gap. So where the electrodes, where the electroids should be connecting, they don't connect. Now, nothing can make these electroids reconnect. It's gone. That's it. So it's sort of like somewhere around this side or this side, wherever it is, but they just don't connect. So it's like a brain dead kind of thing. What happens is with people with ADHD, your brain should go at one speed, and an ADHD brain goes at two different speeds. So the back part of the brain is going like this, but the front part of the brain is going like this, and they're both going around at the same time at two different speeds. When they take the tablets, and this is why every case is different. In our cases, once Michael was given the Ritalin, or the medication that it was given, the Concerta, it speeded the back part of his brain to the front part of his brain, which helped the connection of it, the concentration level. Now, it will be down to if I were giving him loads of foods with numbers in and I were giving him certain things, it would play a part. But yeah, I mean, again, just because one person's got ADHD, Michael was severe ADHD, that's what he got diagnosed with. But his severity of ADHD was completely different to somebody else's severity of ADHD. So yeah, but no, it's like you say, it's each to their own. But do you know, doing your own research, that is what everybody needs to start doing, because I think it does open. Claire's put, I suffer with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and OCD, all of which are debilitating and isolating. I've had peer group therapy tonight, which is why I'm not live. I've masked my symptoms for many years, and my PTSD went undiagnosed for far too long. If we bottle things up, eventually they will explode. Never be afraid to ask for help. Asking for help is not a weakness, it is a road to recovery. It's also a road to strength as well, Claire. I think it's, like you say, again, it's that stigma that it's a weakness, you know, because you suffer. So it's classed because it's shown as a weakness, because society's always shown that as a weakness. Whereas though it's not, it's actually it's a strength to get the help. That's your strength within.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing
I know
at
you're
dog.
not.
Growling at that
biscuit
fly.
eel me. I'm not considered ADHD, but as a kid, I couldn't have anything with red food colour in it, as it made me as hyper as hell. Yep. I get that with coffee. With caffeine. I'm a cowbag, aren't I? Once I've had caffeine. But yeah, there's certain triggers. But you know what? We've all got a part of it in us, I think, you know, as daft as it is. It's yeah. I'll try and get that Christmas with rum. Totally get you about the ADHD. My grandson, I used to describe exactly like that with the brain speeds. Yeah, I think that's the simplest way, isn't it, to describe the brain, how the brain works. That's why they get easily distracted. And you know, when you're actually reading up on stuff like ADHD, it says that a majority of kids that grow up with ADHD that are undiagnosed either turn to alcohol or drugs. And the alcohol is because when they only have a couple of glasses, it speeds the brain up to the same thing. And when if they smoke the wacky backy, it slows the brain down. But it slows it down enough to stop it. It just slows it down, so it like puts it at the same speed again. Now, whether that's a true fact, I don't know, but it's what I got reading in with it, and it does bear a bit of truth on my side. So yeah, I had 14 operations a long time ago, and now I'm waiting for another operation. So again, for you, Mohammed, were you having 14 operations? Your life's changed that much, and I think that's what we were talking about when we were talking about grief. Grief isn't always to do with the loss of a person. Grief is to do with a loss of a change in your life, in what's going off. And for Mohammed, with the 14 operations, that's a loss every time. You know, it's a grief that's never been. I mean, it might have been dealt with Mohammed, but that could potentially be grief that never got dealt with, which then would account now for not sleeping. You know, my son with ADHD has done so well. He's now an estate agent. I'm so proud of him. He's won an estate agent 5 years in a row. Bless him. CBD oil works very well. It definitely does. CBD oil does definitely work. It works for a lot of things that CBD oil does. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, kids and that will all surprise us. So, my lovelies, I think we're going to end it here because I can't eat my toast while I'm live. And that fly's flying around, so I want to kill it. Have you got it, Fee? Good lass. So, yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed tonight's chat. I know it's been a bit different because Paul's not been on. I've not been sleeping too well, thinking too much. Yeah. Mohammed, if ever you get chance, buy this book and have a read of it. Like I say, I'm reading it in members. We are on chapter 5. Well, what I'm calling chapter 5. The next chapter that we're going to be reading it says Dreaming About Death. The last chapter we was reading was Going Down the Plug Hole and Under Grief. But yeah, so but no, thanks for joining me tonight. Thanks for joining us tonight, should I say?
I wouldn't have been sat here like eye candy.
Eye candy, you're my eye candy. And yeah, so yeah, I hope everybody's got a little bit out of this tonight, and I hope it gives you more food for thought to maybe look at things differently in your own life, to maybe assess things differently. But yeah, but like I said, me and John are always here if anybody needs us. We're a message away, we're a phone call away for some of you if you've got his number. But yeah, it's what?
We're on our way.
We're on our way. We're on our way to Tappet League. Well, we are at Tappet League in football. So yeah. So good night, my lovelies. It's a good book. Folks should watch the lives. They should watch the live soldier. If they're members, they'd be able to watch it. But yeah. So I hope it gives everybody a bit of food for thought. It changes the way we say things maybe to others, or think before we speak, maybe a little bit. So yeah. But much love to you all, and we shall see you. Well, I'll see you live tomorrow. I'll be live in the morning. I don't know what I've got planned for tomorrow, but yeah, I'll see you all in the morning for a morning chit chat. So sweet dreams, everybody. Have a good day. Have loads of blessings sent. Night, guys.